this is actually a technique that was developed by software engineers, and when they evaluate prototypes. And what they're interested in is the sequence of actions. They look at the sequence of actions, and they're trying to look at they do it when they develop particular sorts of programs, software programs, and they see where the breakdowns can occur, and actually can be quite useful sometimes. We use it sometimes just to look at where it's particularly good for evaluating processes, you know, like, so you sort of look at the sequence and you try and walk it through and say, well, what will happen here, what will happen there, what will happen there. It's very useful sometimes in service modelling, when you're trying to model a service. Everybody tries to, when people do a survey, say, well, this will happen and this will happen and this will happen. Most see it as a linear sort of process. The two things to look for always are, it's never going to be effective all of the time. So you've got to look at what is that intervention going to be effective for? What happens to the people who it's ineffective for? I cannot tell you how many programs are blocked up because they haven't looked at the ones that mental health is clustered here, haven't thought about the ones for whom this intervention is going to be ineffective. So they just sit there because nobody knows what to do with them. There's no pathway in there. There's nowhere to go. So they just sort of sit there because the program or the intervention hasn't worked for them. And so you've got to always be looking at it, effective and ineffective, and always looking at pathways. If your system relies on people moving through, there's got to be pathways through. It's very important in your program to see that. So you've got to be able to get your target group in, and you've got to move them on in terms of where they're going. Presumably it's not a lifelong stay in your program, so every program's got to have some sense of how the dynamics work. And so these sorts of walkthroughs can be really important in thinking about sequencing, what will happen and who will it happen for. You're not really concerned with what's going to happen in the black box. That's a bit of a black box. It's really what's going to happen between them. It's those sequencing. So exit points, pathways, entry points, all very important. And our systems clog up, well, as you know, all the time because of the lack of sequencing. We're looking at some of that sequencing. Or people just assume there's going to be a sequence in another portfolio, which is pretty, you know, like they're going to get a house because they're going to house them. Those sorts of things, yeah. And it's very much... Yes, we will. It's nearly finished now. This is just, it's in your thing, just some perceptual, visual techniques. So, just summing up, need to understand evaluations and continuum building into job design. Need to be strategically framed with the grade exchange. That's really important. I'm focusing on immediate or intermediate outcomes. Don't wait till it's fallen over to judges. It's too late then. Everybody's going to be too defensive. Everything's just going to, it just becomes a weapon. And a range of simple techniques that you apply, appropriately consistently are really good way to begin to build capacity, your own